So how do you feel about exams? I remember when I was at school, I was terrible. I used to study quite hard and work hard during the term. But then when it came to revising, I didn't know where to start. I had no real system. I just got flustered, became very stressed. And then when it came to the exam, it was even worse. I didn't really know how to answer the questions. I just panic, write maybe one good answer, one average answer, and then one complete rubbish. All of this was due to the fact I didn't really have a proper system when I studied. So I really hope that this isn't you, but if it is, keep watching, and I'm sure that this video will help you. Just think about going into exams. Think about feeling much more confident, positive, and knowing that you can do your best. So before we go on and actually start thinking about how to revise properly, just watch this video. And while you watch it, I'm sure it's a video you've seen loads of times before, but when you're watching, just sort of monitor, think about how you feel. Think about your emotions, your body, how you react while you're watching. Okay, so enjoy this video.
Gavin, did you want some lemon? You want to try some bites? Try a big bite. Big bite, big bite. What do you think? Pretty good? You try some more? No more lemon? No more lemon? No. Anything else?
Poor little man. Imagine giving a baby a lemon like that. Oh. So, but did you notice how you felt as you were watching it and the lemon's going to the baby's mouth? You sort of start to feel your feelings. You tense your body, kind of start screwing your face up. Now, you're not actually eating the lemon, but your body reacts as if you are. And that's the whole thing with exams. If I say to you, how do you feel about exams? Do you already start to feel negative? Do you start to feel a bit tenser? Do you start to almost kind of get worried? Look at your body. You're just talking about exams makes you feel stressed. And if you start to feel like that when you're revising, and then when you go to the exam itself, you can't do your best if you feel too stressed, too nervous, and too panicky. So let's start to look at a way that you can go into exams more confident, knowing that you're going to do well. So let's take a look at how I use my maps to study. And I'm going to share with you a system. So for this example, I'm going to use something which is hopefully a bit more fun. We're going to look at the James Bond films. So I'd rather do this than something like English grammar, for example. So the first James Bond film I ever watched was when I was about 10 years old, and I've been a fan ever since. Now, there are actually 25 James Bond films. Now, I know that I've seen them all, but can I remember the order? Can I remember anything about the films? So in order to first of all see what I do know, I've done a very basic map. So in the centre of the map, I've written James Bond, and I know that there's 6 actors: Sean Connery, George Lazenby, Roger Moore, Timothy Dalton, Pierce Brosnan, and Daniel Craig, the latest. So when you're coming to do your subject, whatever it is, before you start to revise, try to see what you know. So first of all, just get down on paper a map so that you can see where you are and what the main headings are. Now, this is the next stage of the process. Against each actor, I've written down the names of the films. So with Sean Connery, the first one, I remember them quite well. Got Dr. No was in Jamaica. From Russia with Love was in Istanbul, amongst other places. Goldfinger was mostly in the US. Now, You Only Live Twice, I remember the name, can't quite remember which film it is, so I mix it up with Thunderball. I've left these two separate, and this is something I'll need to come back to. And again, I'm not sure which one is the correct order between these two. I remember that Diamonds Are Forever is the last one. And again, I don't need to write out the full name. I've just written Diamonds. Again, if we look at George Lazenby's one and only film, it was called On Her Majesty's Secret Service. That was mostly in Switzerland. So again, when you're making your notes, you don't need to write complete sentences, just little bullet points to remind you. And these in turn will trigger memories. Roger Moore had 7 films. I can only remember 5 of them. I can't remember the correct order. I've kind of guessed a little bit here. So this is something that I'll need to come back and look at in the future. Again, with the others, there's one or two little gaps that are missing. The later ones I remember quite well, but the Roger Moore era and even Timothy Dalton, there are films that I've missed, and they're not in the correct order. I can't really remember one from. Okay, so let's look at this next map. This next map has the corrections in. So you can see in the highlights and the red writing, that's the information that I didn't know. So if we look here, these two films I had in the wrong order, number 4 and 5. Also, I couldn't remember the locations because I mixed them up. So you can see here, when I come down to the Roger Moore films, you can see that maybe I know about 50% of the information. I was able to name, 5 films, but I had no idea of the order. Couldn't really remember the locations either. So you can see this is the sort of area that if it was in history, biology, this is an area that I would need to concentrate a bit more on, to need to look at a bit of detail and then learn some of the information that I don't know. So we'll come to that in a minute as a way of doing it. So you can see it's nice and clear, the areas that I need to know. And this is very crucial. When you come to revise, the tendency is to keep looking at the same thing over and over again, but your brain gets bored of that and you're not learning anything. Whereas with this method, you can see clearly the information that you don't know, and you can see the areas of weakness. So now let's focus on Roger Moore, the area of weakness that we highlighted. Now, obviously, if it's biology, it could be something to do with plants, it could be history, whatever is the area and the topic that you're studying. For us, as we're looking at James Bond, Roger Moore is obviously the area that I don't know so much about. So you can see here, we've got the name Roger Moore, and I've listed the 7 films that he was in as James Bond in a row. And I've got them in the correct order, numbers 1 to 7. I've highlighted the first letter of each film. And then also on the right-hand side, I've made a note of the location, because again, with those, I was a bit sketchy on. I wasn't particularly clear. You might have heard of mnemonics. And one of the most famous mnemonics in the English language is this one here: Richard of York gave battle in vain. So each of these letters, Richard of York gave battle in vain, represents a colour of the rainbow. So we've got red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. So by saying Richard of York gave battle in vain, we can remember the colours of the rainbow. So here with Roger Moore was always supposed to be a lovely man. So for the L and the M from Live and Let Die, Man with the Golden Gun, I'm saying lovely man. Then with the next few words, few titles, we've got the man, so the Spy and Moonraker, I'm saying the man for Octopussy's View. So there's a little rhyme, a little mnemonic that I can say to myself: Roger Moore, lovely man, the man for Octopussy's View. And that will help me to remember the names of the films in the correct order. Now, I found this works very well. Again, you can make silly rhymes, little rhymes that make you laugh. It can be something to you. It doesn't need to be something for anybody else, something silly. Make it fun and make it memorable. And you can use more colours yourself. But this is quite a good way to seeing what you do know and don't know. Now, this is like a blank template, and I would photocopy this a couple of times because you know all of this information, so you don't want to waste time rewriting it. Yeah, and you want to save your energy. You want to focus on the bits that you don't know. And this is where mind mapping works very well. Again, in the past, I tend to go over the same thing that I knew. And then, I've been looking at the same thing for ages. This way is a great way of highlighting what you don't know and then practicing. So we've got our 2 Sean Connery films, so we can write them in there, we can write the locations, and we can keep testing ourselves. With Roger Moore, we can write it once, see what we remember, and then maybe we need to write again several times to make sure we've got everything. We can remember our little mnemonic, lovely man, the man for Octopussy's View. And that will help us with the first letters, and that will trigger everything else and the locations, hopefully. So by following those steps, you'll find that you're able to revise much more effectively. And then when it comes to the exam,
you can unload that information, you can recall it much easier, much smoother.
If you've got any questions, please drop me a message in the box below or send me a message. I look forward to hearing from you. If you've got any queries or you'd like some more information, please drop me a line. Maybe we can work together. All the best. Good luck for the future.